So we want to go back. We're going to come back to All Too Well, but I want to begin with you as a songwriter, because one of the things you're best known for are your lyrics. You're a songwriter, and your lyrics are memorized, right?
Yes.
They are studied by scholars.
Oh my God.
Yes, yeah. And I wonder, in your initial development as a songwriter coming up, how much of the process for you was visual?
It was always part of the process, because when I would write a song, I would immediately start thinking of how do I want to present this on stage? If I made a music video for this, what would it look like? And then when I would create an album, partially through or halfway through, I would start conceptualizing, what does this album look like? What are the colors we're dealing with here? What are the themes? What are the aesthetics? Like, what do I want this to symbolize? Because I, from a very early point in my career, wanted to establish each album as its own era of sorts. And I think that it's really something that I can only thank the fans for, that, you can't really do things like that if people don't care and pay attention to it. So it was always a part of the process, establishing the visuals. And early on, when we would make music videos, the process was, I'm 16, I'd reach out to a video director and I'd say, hey, I think it would be cool if the concept was that we were like, I'm in love with my best friend in high school, and he lives across the street, and but there's this cheerleader who's dating, and there's a football game, and there's like a dance, and there's these signs. Like, you come up with concepts.
Okay.
And over time, I started to take on more and more responsibility, and the more responsibility I took on creatively, the happier I was. Right. So here we are.
And here you are as a director. And what has your path through movies been? What films did you love growing up, and what images from movies still stay with you as a musician?
I think that it has fluctuated over time. I've always really loved certain films during certain phases I was in musically. Like, I made an album called 1989. Thank you for listening to it. And I would watch John Hughes movies. I just watched 16 Candles and Breakfast Club all the time, just over and over. Thanks. And then, this would happen throughout my career for different things, but I remember the pandemic hit, and I was watching I remember watching 2 back-to-back Guillermo del Toro movies, Devil's Backbone and then Pan's Labyrinth.
Nice.
And so
Good one.
my whole world turned into folk tales and forests and mythical creatures, and I was just so dazzled by those films. And I'd always, obviously, like, Shape of Water is one of my favorite films ever, but I hadn't seen those 2 very pinnacle films in his repertoire. And then I watched Rear Window, which I hadn't seen, which is embarrassing, but I hadn't seen it at that point, and it was very voyeuristic. It was very much like, he's watching his neighbors, and like, he sees a murder. I haven't experienced that, but I did experience combining some of those cinematic inspirations and films that I loved with, like, okay, so you end up with an album that is me telling stories from other people's perspectives in a very folk tale kind of...
a mix of Rear Window and Del Toro's movies in a way.
If I had to assign, the culprits cinematically, I would say it would be those 3 films.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, and then the next record, I was just non-stop watching Sense and Sensibility, the Ang Lee one, the Kate Winslet, just everything. And that was for an album called Evermore. It's just, I have very specific film memories for things. But with this one, I think my obsession with, there's this, I don't know if it's actually something people talk about, but in my mind, there's this period of time in the 70s where you started seeing these romantic films where these 2 characters are so beautifully, intimately woven together, and then they just unravel the braid right in front of you, and you just can't believe it. Like The Way We Were, and Love Story, Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention that one.
Yeah, it's just,
amazing in that film.
Yeah, and so those ones were ones that I think, because I love those films, just hitting those emotional touchstones that those films just punch me in the stomach and hit. And then I think in terms of modern films that I loved that probably lended themselves to making this film, I would say Marriage Story, really upsetting for months. I was not all right. And The Souvenir Part 1 and 2.
Oh yes, Joanna Hogg's
Joanna
films.
Hogg's films.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love that she. I had actually made the short film by the time I went and saw The Souvenir Part 2, and the fact that it's about this young woman who experiences this extreme heartbreak and despair and then makes something. It's just like.
Speaking to you.
It's exactly what I want to see in a film. So.
You mentioned the 70s. I heard that you also like John Cassavetes'
Yes,
films.
yes,
from the
yes,
70s.
yes.
Also big heartbreak, big emotion.
Yeah, and I just think I don't know, I just really love how he allows despair and human emotion to just play out.
Yeah.
It just is allowed to breathe and play itself out.
You see the loose ends,
Yes.
right? It's not tied up.
You feel like you're really in that house with that
Yeah.
fight going on, and it's just harrowing.
Yes. Well, the fight that you crafted here also feels that way, and I love how the music stops and you really begin to see their relationship kind of disintegrate
Yeah.
and then come back together a little bit, but it feels like it draws on some of that same kind of spirit from those 70s movies.
Such a nice thing for you to say to me. I think you can tell a lot about people based on how they fight or argue. And I think with this film, I went into it having scripted out a few different scenes and knowing that I wanted to show one of them in depth and at length. And when it came time to shoot, you know, we filmed them breaking up. We filmed them falling in love, some of the dialogue with that. But I kind of, as we got closer to it, I was like, it's gonna be the fight. It's gonna, I think that we had scripted it out, but I had talked to Dylan and Sadie so much about what their intentions were and what exactly it is that's the catalyst for this fight and why it's not about him just dropping her hand. It's about this entire just molecular structure where she feels out of place and he feels unequipped to handle that, and it all comes back to being in different places in their lives, having this huge gap of age difference between them. She's still got one foot in girlhood, one foot in this very adult world. His life is very cultivated. I just felt like we had talked so much about it, that I was dealing with such emotionally intelligent actors, and we talked so much about this, that when we actually shot, it ended up being like, I think probably 92% of that scene is a oneer.
Really?
Yeah, we don't cut till the very end until he says, "Why? Don't look at me like that."
Yeah.
That's the first time we cut. And we were just, my producer Saul and I were just at the monitors, just like there was like a death clutch as we're watching this, because we're like, oh my God, like we're injuring each other's arms at this point, like, but also trying not to make a sound, because we're just so in awe of how much we could trust these actors with every single bit of the scene, the story, the weight.
Some of it is in the writing, I think, as well, your writing, because
Aww.
you really, serious.
Thanks.
You know, for me, when I was watching, I've seen this short film many times now, and what I really got from it is that she does not feel seen in that relationship, and she's trying to tell him about an instance where she did not feel seen in the company of his friends, and he's not really getting it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's such a powerful moment because they're so intimate and yet so far apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really amazing takeaway, because I've always been very fascinated, and one of the reasons I wanted to make a short film and not a music video for this song is because I've been fascinated with the dynamic of the age of the character that Sadie's playing, and what a precarious age that is when you could fit back at your family home, sort of, but you sort of don't. You could fit in an adult's cultivated apartment where they have like a French press and they have all the things that adults have, but you kind of don't. So you kind of fit everywhere, but you kind of fit nowhere. And I think that plays into a little bit of where she's coming from. And I have to credit Dylan too with the fact that I know that he's gaslighting her, and I know that he's like, I know it's problematic, but I'm watching that and I'm like, he is so charismatic. He is charismatic, problematic, and I am still sort of rooting for them to work through this because he makes some charming points, and he does it in a really, really, like, I don't know, just the way that they both played it, I was just blown away.
It's beautiful, because I'm sure so many people relate to it as well, because charismatic, problematic, definition of a boyfriend, maybe?
An ex-boyfriend.
An ex-boyfriend. I don't know how far we want to go with that, but...
Zero.
Zero.
Nowhere.
You mentioned music videos, and I do want to go back, because before you directed this film, you began to have increasing visual input into the making of your music videos. And I want to ask about that process, how you were drawn to getting into the creativity of the music videos as opposed to just being on camera. The collaborators, you've worked with a couple of directors quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious to know what that process was like for you to get more and more creative input and control.
Yeah, it was a baby steps process. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, you know what I want to do? Direct. Like it just that was never something that I was programmed to say to myself because I didn't go to film school. I've been on the set of 60 plus music videos, and I've learned a lot from that process because I've always got my eyes and ears open, and I'm always looking at shots and thinking, I like that one, I don't like that, why and why not? I like that lighting, I don't like that lighting, why and why not? You know, and so you kind of are learning based on your experience, but I had a really, really close creative relationship with Joseph Kahn, who's just like a legend in music videos. He did Toxic by Britney Spears, which is like, just to like give you an example of what we're dealing with. And we made several music videos, and we got to the point where I'd call him up and I'd be like, okay, wrote this song called Look What You Made Me Do. I want to come out of the ground as a zombie, right? We're seeing my hand out of the ground, and then I'm dead. And then I'm in a bathtub of diamonds, and then there's a mountain of me's trying to kill the current me. And he'd be on the phone and be like, yeah, I know exactly what we're doing. Okay, amazing. And so like having that relationship where like essentially it got to the point where I was sort of starting to write the treatments to the videos. And I then decided it might be really cool to co-direct and to step into that role. And so, you know, I got to co-direct a few videos with incredible collaborators, and I learned what it was like to start, you know, writing in-depth treatments and shot listing and really leaning into it. But when I did it on my own, that was when I really, really learned everything.
Yeah.
Because
you have to, I guess.
You have to, and it was so surprising to me because I didn't really want to turn back after that. I just had so much fun. The first video I directed on my own was a video called The Man. It's weird because I'm prosthetically turned into a dude for the whole video. So this was the first video I ever directed on my own. So if you can imagine me trying to direct child actors while I'm dressed prosthetically as a man, I've got like prosthetic, like rubber, whatever they put on my face, and I'm trying to like talk to little kids about what their action is, and they know something's not quite right, and their mom told them that this is Taylor Swift, but they don't really understand how that could be possible.
You have a beard, and you have a bodysuit on.
It was honestly like, it was incredible. The experience was so wild and wonderful, and I got to work with the incredible Rodrigo Prieto as my DP, which I still can't believe that happened to me, because he's just so incredible. Yeah, and so that happened, and then the pandemic happened, and I ended up directing in the middle of the, the sourdough early phase of the pandemic, this video called Cardigan. And then I did another one for a song called Willow, and that was when I thought, I feel like I could do more. I feel like I feel like I'm ready for more. And so that was when I decided to make the short film for All Too Well.
You also draw from movies for some of the imagery in your films, and there's these great references. The Man reminded me at the beginning, anyhow, Wolf of Wall Street.
Thank you.
There's
Honestly,
vibe there
deeply on purpose.
Okay.
I love that film.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that film so much. So it's kind of like an homage, you know?
Sure.
The people, when you reference things, like, people don't know if you're trolling or if you're like, I love that film. I absolutely love that film.
And
I really
the Bad Blood video is all like futuristic action movie.
Yeah, it's the espionage. That's a phone call with me and Joseph Kahn where I'm like, what if Selena kicks me out a window and tries to kill me, but I don't die, and then I go to spy school and they all teach me how to fight. And he's like, yeah, there's explosions, and so yeah, that was a blast, and that was kind of like tipping our hat to the kind of spy thriller genre.
Yes. All right, so I want to ask you more about going from the videos that you directed to this one, the short film, because it feels like, just in terms of your creative evolution, there's more ambition here, you're doing more with it, shooting on 35, longer format, there's a whole dramatic, intense scene there, which could have come out of Marriage Story, almost,
Need some water.
It has that
so
kind
cool
of
of you to say that.
emotional intensity. It's raw, like that Noah Baumbach film is. So I want to ask about just putting that film together, particularly the technical side of it, deciding to shoot on 35mm, deciding on the 1.33 aspect ratio, that kind of old vibe and the richness of those colors and the shallow focus, all of those things are decisions that you made, and I want to know what those decisions were toward. What was the impact you wanted from all of those things?
Well, all the decisions that you make, it's such a beautifully collaborative process. You make decisions, based on your idea as to how you want it to feel, how you want it to look, and then you bring on people you trust. Like, I trust Rena Yang, our DP, implicitly. I absolutely was so lucky to get to work with her, and brought her on early on and showed her my endless mood boards and my references and what I was looking for in terms of lighting and color and texture, and it was pretty apparent that we both wanted to shoot on 35mm. I did not know how to do that.
Sure.
I've never done it before.
People mostly don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and so she's excellent at it, and so she was the one who was like, I think we should shoot interiors on Vision 3 500T stock. I think we should shoot the exteriors on Ektachrome because I love the way that the greens are going to pop. That was
your film stocks, Taylor.
She taught me a lot. She really taught me a lot, and I never would have known anything at all without her. So it was also kind of talking about making intentional, purposeful decisions about lighting, warm tones versus cool tones, and how we want her apartment to feel versus his world to feel, and we wanted them to feel very different. And we figured, since we're dealing with a short film, we don't have a lot of time to say much about their identities, so we wanted to make technical, subtle decisions in terms of lighting and set design. We worked with the incredible Ethan Tobin, and one of my favorite references of set design is in The Way We Were. Barbara Streisand plays this character called Katie, and her apartment, when you look at her apartment, that's who she is. It's her interests, it's her politics, it's the books she reads, it's who she is. Yeah. And I wanted, Sadie plays a character named Her. I wanted her apartment to be her. I wanted it to look like who she is. And I wanted the same for his space. Clean and cool and minimalist and mature and sophisticated and elegant and sexy and dark. So.
You see that, and sometimes audiences pick that up consciously, but sometimes they're just kind of absorbing it. They don't even know that they're actually understanding more about the character by watching their environment.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I want to ask you about casting Dylan O'Brien and Sadie Sink, and not just each individual actor, but the two of them together. That's important too.
Yes. I don't know if it was a decision. It was what my heart needed for this film. It was a very instinctual decision based on having watched their performances. And if I had to assign analytical thought to it, I would say I had never seen either one of them play roles like this before. And I'd seen them just ace anything that was put in front of them, and I just thought, I wonder if Sadie Sink wants to play a romantic lead. I know I haven't seen it yet. I think she's at that perfect point in her career where she could, I think she could absolutely, as the kids would say, eat this up. And basically with Dylan, it was that charisma that I'd seen his films and I'd seen him, even just him doing an interview, you can see that he's got this just this dangerous charm. Like him as a person, he's not a dangerous, but he's dangerously charming, and that he's just like, that is a power that he has. And so I was looking, I also just, when I write, I really gravitate towards, looking up to writer-directors, because that's the way that I can make sense of writing, and then knowing what shots I want, and directing, if I've written it. And then when I was writing it, I just was writing Sadie. Like, I wasn't thinking of any other actress, or thinking of a generic, beautiful, wide-eyed young person. I was writing it for Sadie, and if she would have said no, I just don't know if I would have made the film, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I also just really, really wanted them both to say yes, because I know we have to compromise in life, but I didn't have a backup plan, and I didn't want to compromise. And I was just so happy that they trusted me and that they believed in me. And I was a first-time short film director, and I couldn't believe that they wanted to do it. I still can't believe that anybody wanted to do this with me. I'm so happy about it.
Well, you delivered. Right?
Thank you for saying that.
That's all you need. Did you screen test them together or rehearse with them together?
No. I texted Dylan the longest text you've ever seen. Like, it was when I read it back, I was like, that was too much. And straight up, reached out to Sadie's team, and we're just like, we want to make something. I think was it a text or a call? Long text and then a call. It was, I was just like, please. Like, I wasn't trying to be cool at all.
No chill.
I was like, I promise, no one will work harder to make this good than me. I don't know if I went that far, but I was just, I think they were amazing. They didn't need to be convinced in a way that I was able to pick up on. So I was so happy, because you want to make things with people who are excited to make things with you. I don't really do that well with people who are like, I'm not sure about you, prove it. Like, I'm okay, I will, but that's not as fun. Like, if I have to do it, I will prove it. But it would be so much better if you just really wanted to make stuff with us.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were lucky enough to have.
All of the evolution we've been talking about, from beginning to contribute to and collaborate on music videos, to making your own short films, and this one, particularly recently, it's coincided with you taking back control of your music.
Yeah.
Which we've all been following.
I really appreciate you saying that. But if you're new to this saga, what Cameron's referencing is that basically, I started out on an indie record label I signed when I was a teenager, and I had always had the hope, desire, and dream of buying back my master recordings for my first 6 albums when it came time when my record deal was fulfilled. when my deal was done, that didn't happen. My music was all sold to an outside party, and so we don't. Yeah. But basically, what happened was like a period of like extreme despair for me, and then I came out of that and said to myself, if I made that music the first time, I can make it a second time. And it was so exciting, honestly, to get to do something that I haven't really seen done in the music industry in this particular way.
Stroke of genius.
That is so nice. That is so nice. And so basically, we treat them like they're big releases. Like we do a whole album. We redo the entire photo shoot. You know, we make music videos, and sometimes we make a short film. And so it's really been, honestly, insanely beautiful, because you have like, you know, my friend's daughter is like 12, and her friends were saying like, oh, like we love this new Taylor Swift song that just came out called "You Belong with Me." And I was like, like who's gonna tell her? No, like don't tell her. That's a really old song that came out in like 2008 or something. So it's really been an amazing opportunity to revisit my old music, make exact copies of the old music, and what I also do now is there were a lot of songs that I wrote that didn't end up on the album, so we call those songs from the vault tracks. So I record them, I put them out, so it's been really wonderful, and it's only been possible because the fans actually want this to happen. I can't believe that too. Like, that's amazing that you guys have been so wonderful about it. But basically, this song, All Too Well, the 10-minute version, has a very long story. It is a story about as long as the song, but I'll try to make it shorter. This was a song that originally was released on an album called Red in 2012. Thank you so much. You guys are great. And it was a song that I loved so much, but it was never chosen by, you know, an A&R team in a conference room as being a single. Nobody saw the potential in it except for the fans, who loved it so much that they made it sort of their favorite song on that album. For me, the song was so tough because it was about something that at that point was very current for me. I would have like a really hard time performing it at the time. Like, I had to really like force myself to focus on other things to try to get through it during tour. So there would be no world in which I could have made a visual element to that song at that point in time. I needed 10 years of sort of retrospect in order to know what I would even make to tell a version of that story visually. And I'm so grateful that I was able to do that with some crazy stroke of all these different twists of fate. Can't believe it.
Do you make a connection between coming to the point where you can create your own images and owning your own music? What's the connection?
I think it's very connected, and not in a way that was conscious, but I think in a way where, you know, hopefully the more years you live, the more things you learn, and you hope that you get braver as time goes on. And I've been very lucky to, you know, when I've taken these baby steps creatively, I've been very lucky to have people go like, no, go further, it's great, like keep going, you know. It's and I think I would have really tried to keep expanding creatively even if I had been like squashed the first time I tried to make something. But it was really beautiful that we're in a place where hearing the idea of a female filmmaker doesn't make you roll your eyes or think as skeptically as it once was, and we have, you know, so many incredible female filmmakers to thank for that. Like, you know,
A lot of them here doing the best of it.
absolutely. And I just feel really grateful. Like, you think about people like Nora Ephron, who, you know, there's people who paved the path, and then there's like Nora Ephron, like in the forest with a machete, just like hacking, like to where the path will be paved. And I think about writer-directors like that who inspired the writer-directors who inspired me. It's like a whole, think about people like that all the time.
I want to go to actually a question we have from somebody on Twitter. We've got a few questions from social media.
Love.
Because it's related. This is at Long Story Swift on Twitter.
Excellent.
And they ask, right, pretty
Solid.
good handle, yeah. I loved your shout out to female directors at the VMAs. Are there any female directors in particular that inspired your vision for this film?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, Nora Ephron as a writer-director. I love Chloe Zhao. I love Greta Gerwig. I love Lena Dunham. There are so many people that I absolutely adore who are making films in such like brave, bold, inspiring ways. And they're women that I just look up to and admire, and have sometimes been like lucky enough to be in a room with. Or Lena is always there for me if I have a question, and just such a good friend.
And she's got a new film here at the
Yes,
festival
she
as well.
does!
Right?
I've seen it, it's so good.
Actually called Birdie.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And a nice departure for her as well.
Yes.
It's set way, way in the past, and it's also hilarious.
It's one of my favorite things she's ever done,
Yes.
so go see it.
Another question, also from Twitter, from @WildflowerHoax. And they're asking, tell us about the lighting in All Too Well, the short film. What was the significance and the contrast between warm and cold? Talk a little bit about that.
It's really good to be asked this question.
And this person says, I've seen dozens of theories, but would love to hear the intent behind it.
So, I really wanted this. I had a few overarching goals with the lighting and, you know, just sort of the coloring and everything. I really wanted this short film to feel like autumn. And not the entire time you're watching it, but in your memory. I referenced the film Love Story from like 1970 earlier, and when I think of that film, I think of autumn. I just do. Right. And so I was trying to, I think, establish that in the earlier parts of the short film. And like when they're falling in love, I wanted that to feel warmer. And when we're in his world, his apartment, I wanted it to feel cooler. And then when Sadie goes into her periods of despair and reeling, I wanted her world to become cooler. And then in the end, when we see her grown up, I wanted it to be a bit of a combination of both, almost to symbolize that she is still herself, but she has been changed by this experience. And I wanted that to make us both happy and sad at the same time. But I think that it's also important when you think about the worlds that you're creating. Like, we were working within the framework of chapters. We had this amazing typography studio called Fraser Mugridge do these bespoke chapter title cards, and those were there because I wanted you to realize in the end that that these are chapters of Sadie's character's book. So when you see the chapters like "Are You Real?" and the first crack in the glass, you realize in the end that
this is the story she's telling about her.
Yes, this is her reflecting back, and these are chapters of her book, and these are the things that you're seeing taking place that you would read about in the book that she was writing. So we wanted there to be sort of like we wanted her to seem a little bit changed in the end, even with the set design. The house where she lives in the end looks a little bit more like where he lived.
Okay.
Than where she was before.
So she has actually taken something from that relationship.
Yeah, good and bad.
Yeah, interesting. There's another element in the film that there are a lot of theories about, which is that red scarf.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the red scarf? Because there must be a lot of decisions that went into exactly
what can I tell you is the question. Basically, you stop it. Stop it. Basically, the scarf is a metaphor, and we turned it red because red is a very important color in this album, which is called Red. And I think when I say it's a metaphor, I'm just gonna stop. And I'm going to say thanks for the incredible questions whoever asked it. You've really taken us for a ride with that one. Thank you.
The scarf question was mine, actually.
Thanks at Cameron Bailey.
That's right. back to, this time, TikTok.
Yes.
Zara on TikTok is asking, are there any other genres within filmmaking that you'd be eager to pursue?
Ooh. It's a good suggestion. I think I will always want to tell human stories about human emotion. I never say never, but I can't imagine myself like filming an action sequence. It's just for me, like if it happens one day, honestly, like that'll be funny character growth. But at this point, I want to, I could see it going. I could see it going in a more comedic, irreverent place. I could see it being a little bit, I don't always see myself telling stories about extreme guttural heartbreak at your most formative age that really sort of, debilitates you emotionally for years, and then you have to like develop the scar tissue in order to move on with your life. And then limp your way to your typewriter and write a novel about it because you're still,
Yeah, you can't keep doing that.
No,
it's gonna be painful.
I think I've done that.
Yeah.
So I would love to. I'd love to keep taking baby steps forward, and I think that I'm at a place now where like the next baby step is like not a baby step. It would be committing to making a film, and I feel like I would just absolutely love for the right opportunity to arise, because I absolutely adore telling stories this way.
That's where I was going as well. Feature film's gotta be that.
If it were the right thing, it would be such a privilege and an honor. And I also just do want to say that I'm aware of the fact that I'm in an incredibly privileged place to have gotten to finance this short film independently. Because when we talk about female filmmakers, I am one of them, but I also realize that there are people who are working so hard to get financing and to get any type of budget together to make the productions that and the projects that they want to make. So I honestly like bow down and tip my hat to those female filmmakers. They're very resourceful.
I'm sure you are. You will find it. You still have your music career, of course, right? We're talking about your film work, but how are you going to balance it?
Last time I checked, like I love that. I do have my music career.
And is like how much of the visual side of it, whether it's more films, music videos, that kind of thing, how much do you think that will take up of your time and creativity?
It's an interesting projection to try to come up with, having not thought about that exact thing ever before. I really, I have a lot of bandwidth to put into creative things. And I get exhausted by things in life, but they're never creative things. I love making stuff. And I'm like, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've just been like, I just love making stuff. I just want to never do anything but make stuff. So I just hope that keeps going. I am so lucky to be supported by kind, generous, nice, thoughtful people who seem to care about stuff I make. I just hope that keeps going. I'm gonna keep working hard, trying my best, all of that. And I would absolutely love to expand in terms of filmmaking and storytelling and keep, it's a natural extension of my writing. I really feel that, and as long as I can keep doing all the natural extensions of my writing, doing shows is a natural extension of my writing. I love that too. I want to do all the things.
Well, Taylor, we're out of time, but I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. I'm hearing that we have a little bit more time. Thank you. We'll keep it going for just a little bit longer.
I would love it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's okay. It's just flowers.
Whoa.
It was fast though.
All right.
It's Richard!
Kind of sleepy.
I wanted to ask you, you talked about Sadie and Dylan as the actors that you absolutely wanted for All Too Well, the short film. And in future film projects or just ideas that might be percolating, I wonder if there's certain actors that you have in mind.
Totally. I definitely do. But if I say, you know, if I say that, then if I go to them and say, they'll already know. Do you know what I mean? And then I won't have an opportunity to write them like a novel length text, which honestly, there's just something in that, you know? Me just begging people to work with me over text message or voice memo or whatever it is that I did. No, I absolutely, there are so many actors out there that when I watch a film, I think that sparks a character that, you know, or they seem like actors that you could trust with filling them in on the scene, writing it, but also saying, okay, now do a take where I want to see what you would do if you could forget parts of the script and just do this as the character. That's what I had with Dylan and Sadie. Yeah. It was really, you know, we safeguarded it so that there was a script, but I'm gonna be honest with you, when you compliment the writing in that scene, a lot of that is them. So, because they're just brilliant and they're so natural, and their chemistry was so electric that I could not possibly take credit for all the things that they said and the ways that they said them. It was just like phenomenal to watch it happen. So those moments are the things that, as a storyteller, you're just sitting there thinking, it is the most brilliant thing when that many people can come together to collaborate. Because when I'm making music, it's usually, you know, either me writing on my own or I'm in a studio with one other person. And it's a very, that's two people, and that feels collaborative and fun. But when you are on a film set, sometimes you just catch yourself looking over at the camera operator or the first AD or someone hanging a light in the perfect exact spot, and you're just thinking, I cannot believe how talented and so specialized and brilliant these people are, and we're all working together to make this. And when you have it culminate in a scene like what Sadie and Dylan did over and over again during this short film, it just feels like a big group hug. I can't watch it without when Sadie, I know it's become a meme, but when I watch Sadie see him call her and she's laying in bed and she's crying so hard that she actually physically grabs her chest, it just really messes me up. Like, it actually physically hurts me when I see that, because it does, because she's so talented and she really makes me believe that she's going through that. And their chemistry in this was so good that I actually, by the end of watching it, I just wish that I wish he would kind of maybe like go in the bookstore. But it is, I did want to end it in terms of, you know, I think it's really just devastating when a character goes from being in another character's life to then being a voyeur, watching from the outside in. Like, you were a main character, and now you're standing outside a window. There's that barrier is just so brutal. Anyway.
We come back to brutal one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's something in what you said in terms of the scene where Sadie's clutching her chest, which sounds like that wasn't direction. That was something that she came to, or was it a combination? How did you?
That was something that one we were going for.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Well, I didn't say clutch your chest, but there were these moments where we knew we were filming a certain phase of her grieving, and we knew some of it was, you know, different phases of her letting go of this person, and this was one of the ones that Sadie and I knew from the jump that this one was going to be, you know, the kind of crying that like racks your body, like just the kind of crying where you can't breathe. And she got herself there in a way that was so unbelievably impressive. And I mean, her face was completely red in her body, and it was in her body, that crying. And I just, when I saw her preparing, you know, you want to ask an actor what way in which they want to prepare for that, and like, she got herself there to a place that I think really makes people, when they watch it, they know that she's emotionally, physically, mentally hurt. There's every aspect of pain coursing through this person, and for her to give us that performance is genuinely just such a generous thing to do as a performer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Some directors do direct in a very detailed physical way. You know, move your elbow here an inch more this way, that kind of way. And actors might not like that, but some directors want that kind of precision, and other directors do, I think, more like what you're describing. And I wonder how you find that balance in terms of, you have this vision in your head, you know what you're going for in terms of the effect, but how much do you direct the detail of your actors' performances?
With this one, it was really about naturalism. Okay. So we're not trying to get a perfectly symmetrical shot, and if you are 2 inches to this way, you mess up the shot, because the shot's all about symmetry of the desk and the lantern. You know, it's not.
It's not Wes Anderson.
Oh, I love Wes Anderson.
Love Wes Anderson.
But that's exactly what I'm referencing, because I love Wes Anderson. But you know, there is when I watch a Chloe Zhao film, that is her with a Steadicam finding the emotion in the shot, and I find that just as riveting as when I'm watching a Wes Anderson film, and I love both types of film. But with this, we were really going for more of that, just the heart-throbbing naturalism, because their physicality and them being natural within those moments, you know, I'd be in the car with them, and when I'm in the back seat of that like 90s Mercedes that we had, like me and Rena are in the back seat of the car, and there is a moment where we're like, okay, you know, Dylan, put her hair behind her ear, Sadie, look over at him and grin, tell a joke. You know, they're kind of just talking to each other off the cuff, but you would reach in verbally and just give them a bit of a prompt. And that happens definitely more in the times where they're falling in love and there's this chemistry. It was a really great combination of feeling like, oh my God, they've got this. Like, there were moments where you're like, just let them go. Do not mess with that. Don't mess with what they're doing. And then there would be moments where you're like, okay, you know, I can't see, there's a big, massive tear about to roll down her face, but there's one piece of hair blocking it. So you're just like, saying, move your hair, and it just, you know, like, but you also don't want to mess with that too much. I don't know. I mean, it's really just a case-by-case situation.
As it is probably for most directors.
Yeah.
One other piece in terms of performance, which many people don't see when they're watching films, but it's editing.
Yes.
You can create a performance in the edit suite.
Yes.
Sometimes, in terms of the time you take with
yes.
each scene.
Our editor, Ted Gard, is absolutely incredible. And Saul and I would sit in the edit suite every single day, going through every single thing we had shot. And the edit, I think, you know, it being, part of it being set to music helped, because I knew exactly, there were some shots that were really locked in, right? Like, there's a scene where we have, you know, a tracking shot and the dolly's moving in, and it's her, him, no, it's moving out. Yeah, it's moving out, and it's revealing Dylan meeting her dad, and it's this beautiful scene full of warmth, and he's doing it. He's charming the dad. It's great, and then you're pushing back in, and it's a completely different day. I wanted to match that exactly. So there were some structured things, but then there were also moments where it's free flowing, and I wanted to have this sort of kaleidoscope of memories at the end. I wanted that to be the kind of thing that we'd find in the edit.
Right.
And so we did that. But I mean, we were like, you know, drinking wine and crying a lot. Just, you know, very serious stuff.
That's where the art comes from, right?
Yeah, obviously.
We are actually now truly out of time,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry we can't have any more questions, not even from me, but I just want to ask you to join me in thanking this remarkable artist, Taylor Swift.